Right, good morning everyone. We're going to get started in 2 minutes, but can I just draw your attention to the slide behind you. Okay, so today you're going to get the chance to vote for a party before we hear the debate, and then you're also going to get to do the same afterwards. So if you've got your phone, just send one of those codes to that number on the screen, and then you'll all do the same again at the end. We're going to start in 2 minutes, so please, as quick as possible.
We just pick these names. We pick these up.
Good morning to you all, colleagues, distinguished guests, good morning to you too. I'm sure you'll all extend a warm welcome to the 4 candidates we've got here today and a couple of other special guests in the audience. Now today, we've been building up to this for a long time, okay? And I hope you're all really excited about it. If you're not excited about it, believe me, in 3 minutes when I'm finished with you, you're going to be ready to go, okay? So, the last 4 weeks, 5 weeks in 4, we've been watching parts of political broadcasts, we've been learning a bit about political systems, and hopefully, from time to time, you've been talking about this with your friends and seeing what your views are. But despite all these things that we're trying to give you, politics is still pretty hard to access. I know that when I switch on the news and I see politicians talking about who spent the wrong money on this, who's lied about that, and who's done a U-turn on that, it's almost like a glorified Mean Girls in some respects. But today is different, okay? Today, when you ask these candidates a question, who've kindly come along, all they're going to tell you is about what their party's going to do if you vote into government for the next 5 years. They're not going to be talking about what each other have done wrong, they're just going to talk about what they're going to do, what they intend to do. So we're going to start in a couple of minutes, but I'm just going to run you through the rules and how it's going to work, okay? So, Each candidate's going to have 1 minute to make an opening statement to you. In that statement, they'll introduce themselves and the party and what they're going to do, what their vision for Britain is over the next 5 years. After that, it's your turn. So you can submitting questions to us. We've chosen some of your questions. You all know who you are. And the candidates are going to have 30 seconds to answer that. We're going to hear from all the candidates, and then we're going to come to you. Alright, now we've decided the order that they're going to be speaking in by drawing cards. Okay, I'm a maths teacher after all, cards have to come into it somehow. And this is going to be the order they go in every single question. Now, obviously to make it fair, the first person each time will change, so it's going to be like pass the parcel in that respect. But the only way that today's going to be a success is if you get involved. Okay? If they talk at you and then you give them nothing back, you're not going to enjoy it. Okay? You're going to be bored and you're going to wonder what you're doing back. So what I really need you to do, when they're answering the questions, you're going to have loads of opinions and questions running through your mind. And they're all going to be brilliant and unique and different to everybody else. So I just ask you to be really bold and confident. When I come and ask if anyone's got any further questions, stick your hand up, okay? Mr. Clark, Miss Wilson, Miss Wilson is going to come with a microphone. It's only my friend, don't get scared. Just imagine you're posting it on Twitter, alright? But we really need to hear your views. One of these people, every week, is going to be going down to London to represent you and your views. We want to make sure that their views are your views. We want to make sure you agree with them. Because that's what politics really is. Somebody going down to represent a bunch of people to Parliament, to change the laws, to change the way that we run the country, to make the lives of you and your families better. Okay, so it's really important that you get involved. Now, the last thing I'm going to say is, by all means, have your preconceptions. Okay? It's human nature to judge and have preconceptions, what you talk about with your family, what you talk about with your friends. But please, what I'd ask you is just to take your opinions and, based on the facts that you'll get today, really think about them and reevaluate them. You should always be reevaluating your opinions when you get new information. Okay? Opinions, it's my final simile, okay? Opinions are a little bit like Facebook profiles. Alright? Everyone has one, but they should also be regularly and thoroughly examined. Okay? And on that bombshell, we're going to begin. Okay? So, can I invite Shawkat, the youth candidate? You have 1 minute to talk about your vision for Britain for the future. Okay? Enjoy, guys.
Thank you. Thanks. So elections come and go, and what we do every time is we vote for a different party and a different set of policies to come into power. And we choose those people and give them the power. And those policies are supposed to improve our lives, and each time we usually end up getting disappointed because either the policies don't work out to do what they wanted, or we just don't get the policies that we were expecting, that we were promised. So this time UKIP is offering something different, not just a set of policies which is going to improve the country, but also a different kind of politics. So instead of just choosing who's going to get power this time, we choose that you get more power. And that is done through a few ways. One, which is to bring power back from Brussels, unelected commissioners, and back to Westminster, so that future general elections will continue to actually make a difference to the country. Another thing is recall, real recall, the ability to sack your MP through a petition between elections if they've done wrongdoing, like expensive scandals, which some MPs still haven't resigned for. And also more referendums on a national and local scale. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, very polite audience we have, good to see. Okay. So, Nick, Liberal Democrats. Minute starts now.
Okay, I'm Nick Cott and I'm the Liberal Democrat candidate for Newcastle Central. I really think Newcastle is a fabulous place to represent. I actually represent Newcastle, part of this constituency on the council at the moment for the Liberal Democrats, and I know some of the challenges that are faced by people like yourselves and other people in the constituency. Liberal Democrats in government have been a force for change. I think we've kept a lot of our promises. 70% of our manifesto has been implemented in government. We've actually been very successful in securing some very key planks of our agenda. For the future, we want to extend some of that. We've been very successful in increasing the personal tax allowance, which has given most people an £800 reduction in their tax. We will extend that by another 400 if we're elected in government next time. Very important, apprenticeships, jobs have been a real issue and training opportunities are needed.
Sorry, Simon from the Conservatives, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. Well, I went to Heaton Manor School, so this is an away fixture for me, so please give me a good hearing. You should vote Conservative because we're the Conservatives are the party of young people in Newcastle, and I'll tell you why. We're giving you the best possible start in life by creating better, higher standards in schools, good schools with outstanding features like Kenton here today. Also focusing on expanding university education, getting more people from disadvantaged backgrounds into university. We're going to promise 3 million more apprenticeships as well. But most important of all, we're creating, after the car crash economy that we inherited in 2010, we have created a vibrant economy which has created 1,000 new jobs. And that's what you all want when you leave school. You want to get a good, well-paid, meaningful job. And that's what the Conservative Party will deliver for you. And as well as delivering that job, we'll pay down the deficit and eventually pay down the debt. So your generation doesn't have to pay for the mistakes of the previous generation. Together we can build a shining city on a hill. Vote Conservative.
That will be the last that you hear people talking about the history and the past. Okay, it's all about the future. Chi, you have 1 minute.
Well, I just realised this is where I took most of my exams, so no wonder I'm feeling a bit nervous. I went to Kenton School. I grew up in a council house down the road on Hillsview Avenue. The NHS saved my mother's life. I benefited from these great public services which enabled me to realise my dream, which was to be an engineer, not a politician then. The Labour Party believes that Britain succeeds when working people succeed. That's why we fought for generations for great public services. That's why we want to build an economy where everyone does well, where there are good, secure jobs with decent pay, and where there are great public services such as education, such as the National Health Service. You need a Labour government if you are to realise your dreams. I hope we can do that together.
Okay, thank you, candidates. Just like remind everyone from now on of 30 seconds to answer the questions. All right. So this is where it starts to get to the nitty-gritty, the real policies. I hope you're thinking, I hope you're ready, I hope you're confident, and I hope you're raring to go. Okay, so we have our first question now from Adam. So Adam, please stick your hand. We get a microphone to Adam, please. Okay, Adam, take it away.
Yeah, so I'm 18. Hello, over here. I'm 18, so I will be able to vote next week. Oh, okay. I'm 18, so I will be able to vote next week, but more than half of the people in this hall will not be able to vote. Will your party lower the voting age? Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Adam. So we're going to start the same order then, but we're going to start with the second person now. So Nick, if you'd like to go first, please. So 30 seconds.
Okay, Liberal Democrats believe in voting at 16. We would lower the voting age. One reason we would do that is because we believe that young people should have a voice, and we've seen in the Scottish referendum last year how significant young people could be and how they gave energy to the issues, and I'm very much in favour of it. So that's a clear commitment from the Liberal Democrats.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Simon?
I'm going to be really unpopular. I'm going to say no, we wouldn't lower the voting age. There's always going to be people who are going to lose out wherever you put the bar. The general consensus across the Western world is that 18 is the right age, and it's something to look forward to for yourselves as well. You don't want to rush into everything. And I'd say sometimes a bit of chance to reflect in terms of your own political views. If I voted when I was 16, I would have voted Labour. When I voted when I was 18, I voted Conservative. So I think there might be some people in this audience now who might be able to want to kind of reflect.
Okay, thank you very much. Chi, 30 seconds.
I joined the Labour Party when I was 16. I was actually elected MP for Kenton School in a mock election when I was 17. I believe absolutely that young people have the ability and the right should have the right to vote, not only because you have the ability to make these sort of decisions and it would might make school more interesting at times, but actually because you might change politics for the better. You might bring young, fresh ideas and idealism and a vision for the future that we need in politics, that we need in Westminster.
Thank you. Okay, so last panel's going to talk. I hope you've got some things to say. All right, Shawkat, 30 seconds.
Thanks. So it's not UKIP's plan right now, but I can't rule it out. But just pay attention to this one crucial point, which is that this isn't about whether we're democratic or not. This is about where you draw the line, and I'm assuming we all agree that you have to draw the line somewhere. You can't just have anyone of any age voting. So the line has already been drawn at 18. That's when you gain permission to do most of the things that are legal to do. So the line's been drawn there. Using a citizens' initiative that we are going to establish, look that up what it is, I don't have time to explain, but you can even make that change even with the UKIP government, which isn't planning on making this happen.
Okay, thank you. Right then, folks, you've heard what we've got to say. We've got what it sounds like. The Liberal Democrats and the Labour have all intentions to lower the voting age, but Conservatives and UKIP not necessarily. Adam, first of all, do you want to come back with anything on that?
Yeah, sure. So, we're all 16 in this hall, we're all the age of 16. Therefore, we can all sign up to die for our country and possibly die for our MP. We can move in with our MP. We could even marry our MP if we so wished. We could have sex with our MP. But we could not vote for our MP. That doesn't seem to ring right with me. Thanks.
Thank you, Adam. I don't think anyone was expecting that. Simon seems to want to say something on that, so Simon, please.
If I was having sex at 16, I would have been very happy, but I would say, I think you made an excellent point about military service, and this is where the fundamental, where the voting age, why it was lowered to 18 in the first place, was because of the boys going off to fight in the First World War, which created quite a movement towards lowering the voting age. You can't fight, you can join the army at 16, but you don't see combat duty until you get to 18. And I think that's an important distinction to make, because I think everyone who does vote, it's about, you would potentially be conscripted to fight in the war, and that includes women and men as well. So I think there is a distinction there, and while I think you can start a family at 16, I think 18 perhaps is the right age in terms of being able to take on other responsibilities, like being able to buy alcohol as well, which you're not supposed to do before you're 18, but I know some people, no confessions here might do.
Yeah,
so I agree, you made some actually really great points. Personally, I'm indifferent on this topic, and let me just tell you about the citizens' initiative that we're going to establish, which is, yeah. So basically, every 2 years, a petition with the most amount of signatures, that's over 2 million, will get a referendum from the government, whether we like it or not. So you can make that case, and then you can even force it to happen if you was a government.
Okay. Nick, you want to say
Yes,
something?
I think what you've raised is really important, and I think you've put the points very well. I think there is discussion to have actually about when adulthood starts, and some of the issues that you've raised actually relate to that question. But certainly, I think for all the reasons you've raised, there's no justification any longer to have the voting age at 18. It must be lowered to 16. I think it would make a lot of difference. And politicians would take more notice of young people's issues. I think sometimes, certainly discussions I have with young people and things that you read about, certainly tell me that young people often feel that they are not listened to. And I think it's really important that they are. And I think this would be a really good way for politics to demonstrate that young people are important, and it would be important for you to be an active citizen as well.
Thanks, Nick. Chi, do you want to raise something?
You're absolutely right to say there are a lot of very important decisions that you're making right now, though I perhaps don't agree with all the ambitions you may have set out. And that is why I think it's really important that it should be done in the context of great education in a school system, and obviously I think Kenton's a great school system, which gives both civics and public health and safety and sex education lessons as well, so that those decisions can be made in that kind of context. But I also think that deciding to vote is one of the most important decisions everyone here will make, because one of the reasons that politicians don't listen as much to the voice of the young as they do to the voice of the old is because young people are less inclined to vote.
Thank you. You all know that from the talk we had from the council that came in. Okay, so it's really important to do that. We're going to move on to the second question now. Okay, so Callum, can you stick your hand up, please? Can we grab the microphone? So Callum. Okay, Callum, take it away.
Why do we spend so much money on foreign aid when we still have food banks in the UK, particularly Newcastle?
Okay, so questions are behind you. We're now going to start with Simon, so you're going to go first. We've got 30 seconds.
I'd say there's not necessarily a link between the two. In France, which is a socialist-run country, they have twice the number of food banks and they spend less on international aid than we do. So I think it's wrong to try and penalise the poorest in other countries to deal with poverty in this country. The food banks is a really complicated issue, and I feel really kind of morally vexed by it personally. I think that we're trying to deal with very complicated issues to do welfare reform, but also it's a wider agenda of the society. People actually like to give to food banks as well. There's a way of knowing that the money that food's going to go to a good cause.
So, Chi, you're next. 30 seconds.
You're right that having the biggest food bank in the country here in Newcastle in 2015 shames Britain as the 6th richest country in the world. But that is not a function or feature of the fact that we are giving just 0.7% of our wealth to other countries, which will help them be self-sufficient, make the world less inequal, and also as a sort of moral duty as people who, we are a wealthy country, the food banks are our shame.
Thank you. Thank you. Shawkat, we'll come to you again.
Sure, thanks. So thank you so much for the question. It's a really good point. And I am so proud that we give money and help and aid to situations like with Ebola, and hopefully, and UKIP would support the helping of the migrant crisis right now. And but at the same time, I'm really not proud that we give millions of pounds to countries to build water parks and aid to India as well, who has their own space program. So it's getting ridiculous. So UKIP wants to cut it down to just the necessities and the true emergencies, which is actually about £2 billion instead of the £11 billion that it is now.
Thank you very much. And finally, Nick.
Okay, I think it's actually forced to actually put the two things together. Foreign aid is really important. Foreign aid is important because it helps to reduce international conflict, investing in areas of the world which need our help. We have a moral obligation to do so, as has been said, but we also will cut costs in the longer term, because if there are less conflicts in the world, then we won't have to spend as much on defence, security, peacekeeping as we do now. Food banks are an important issue, however.
Just for the benefit of the students and for the staff and for me, could we just go along the line and say whether you would increase, keep the same, or reduce the amount of money that we spend on foreign aid in terms of real terms? Okay, so Chi would led by...
We are signed up and absolutely committed to the 0.7%, which is the Millennium Goal.
Okay, thank you. Nick.
0.7% as well.
Okay.
Yeah, 0.7%.
£2 billion.
Okay,
Cut it from 11 to £2 billion.
so we're talking really about 0.2%, 0.1% of GDP. Okay, Carl, is there anything you'd like to come back on that directly? No? Okay, right, folks, come on. What have you got to say? Do you agree with what's been said? Come on. So I'll just thank you very much for getting my phone down to the two.
You said as much aid in because of the water box, isn't that like making jobs in the country as well for the water box?
Yes.
Okay, can I just so this young man's talked about when we give money to build water parks and things, as Shawkat suggested, this is creating jobs in these economies. So, do you want to come back
Yeah,
to
that's
that,
a
please?
good point. But the real way to help other countries improve is not with these one-off things, because you can never solve a problem with these one-off like injections of money. The real way is to increase trade. And what the EU is doing, all they do is talk about foreign aid, but at the same time, they put up massive trade tariffs and barriers to trade with poor countries. So really, they're absolute hypocrites. It's not right. And what we should do is UKIP would leave the European Union and then lower trade barriers and have free trade, especially with the countries that really need to trade their way out of poverty.
Okay, Simon, yeah.
A lot of aid has actually been refocused in a much better direction over the last 5 years. So a lot of the money which was going to countries like Russia and China has been kind of stopped altogether now. It really is focusing on those kind of vaccinations, tackling like Ebola, the stuff we're seeing in Nepal as well, and that kind of economic development, as you've said there, which is really important, so people can pay their own way in the world and pay for their own public services.
Yeah, the figure of just of 0.7%, it wasn't plucked out of the air. That was a figure which, a huge commission of people calculated would eliminate poverty in the world if every country did that. So that's why we have committed to doing that. Now, not every country is doing it, but we're leading by example. And when you come to, when you come to, there are always going to be bad examples of how money is being misused, but the vast majority of the money is really tightly controlled, and the outcomes are, we can see that there are less people dying of malaria in the world because the UK is giving that kind of money. And in addition, the money is also going to build an infrastructure to help train, to help build roads, to help education, to help the skills, so that there's more trade.
Nick wants to come in.
Yes, I don't understand what the issue is in relation to the point that was made, because I agree with the speaker, which was that this is money which is being spent on infrastructure and other things. And that to me is quite vital. I don't think it's piecemeal at all. I think it's actually something which is quite coordinated, and it deals with a number of important things that the world is facing. And the issue about the European Union, well, often this is actually done through working together with other partners within the European Union to actually coordinate efforts, to do our best to help those people in other countries and to support those states that need our support, to reduce international conflict, and we really must do that. The idea that we can reduce the amount we spend on this, it appalls me. It really does.
Shawkat, come to you and then we'll move on to another question. So, final word.
Right, sure. It's all well and good to improve infrastructure in other countries to improve trade, but if you've still got these massive trade tariffs up, then you're not truly encouraging trade. And trade is the way that you leave poverty. That's how all countries did it in history. We traded with each other, we all got wealthier. That is the way, not one-off injections of money. That's not that doesn't fix anything.
Okay. Right. I think the subject of feedback will come up a little bit later, so you'll have your chance to say something about that. So we're going to move on to our third question. So Mark, can you stick your hand up, please? Can we get a microphone over to Mark, please? And this question is about students. Okay, so Mark, take it away.
What would your party do to support future students financially?
Okay, so what would your party do to support future students financially? So a really good opportunity to stick with what your party's telling you, to just tell the folks what they want. So we started with Simon last time, did we? So Chi, we'll come to you first.
So, supporting students financially is one of the most important things that a government can do, because it's a really difficult and challenging time, and especially when you're trying to make the decisions about what you're going to do with the rest of your life. So we reduced tuition fees. We said we reduced them from £9,000 to £6,000. We would also make sure, if you don't want to go to university, every student here who gets the right basic grades in English and maths gets the offer of an apprenticeship, so that you can study and work a good apprenticeship, a proper apprenticeship.
Thank you. All right, great. Policy focused, brilliant. You get Shawkat.
Right, so thanks. So we eliminate tuition fees entirely for STEM subjects, which is the science-related ones, medicine, technology, etc. But in terms of everything else, the reason tuition fees can go so high is because there's such a demand for universities. It's just simple supply and demand. So we'd stop encouraging everyone, absolutely everyone, to go to university regardless of how academic they are or what they want to do. There's other courses you can take, 1-2 year, more efficient courses, specifically tailored to specific trade skills, and we also encourage more apprenticeships. And that will lower the amount of people who are going to university, just in terms of those who are going who shouldn't be going.
Okay. Nick, you've got 30 seconds.
Okay. Yes, one of the things that young people are concerned about is transport, I think, and we would introduce a young person discount card for 16 to 21-year-olds, which would be 2/3 discount on buses, and we would enable councils and other organisations to add to that if they wish to do so. The issue of fees, there's a lot of misinformation about this. The system that is in place is a graduate tax. You don't have to pay anything up front at all. And the new system allows people to study part-time without paying up front anymore, and I think there are benefits there.
Thank you, Nick. Simon, finally, 30 seconds.
Thanks, Mark. Excellent question. We originally put fees up from 3,000 to 6,000, but we allowed universities to top it up to 9,000, so they could use that extra money to be able to support kids from disadvantaged backgrounds to go to university. I'm really pleased to say that that's raised £300 million. That means that now participation from people from disadvantaged backgrounds is at an all-time high. I'd also say to boost your income, get a job. I mean, that's a lot of people do that when they go to university. I did it. Having a flexible labour market, which brings loads of work, is a really good way of supporting yourself when you're studying.
Thank you very much. So just a little recap of what happened in the city. So Chi, the Labour Party, would reduce fees from 9,000 to 6,000. UKIP would eliminate tuition fees for STEM subjects, but everything else would remain the same. Lib Democrats keep the tuition fee the same, but introduce health and transport. And Conservatives keep the tuition fees the same, but suggest we get a job. Right, I think you all got the same. So I think that's what it is. I think that's about. Okay, yeah, that's a fair representation. Right, who's got something to say? I'm sure. Do we believe them? Oh, yeah, come to the front.
The UKIP just said that you would encourage everyone to go to university. You said there were people sitting there falling down who deserve to go to university as much as the other people.
No, absolutely not. It's about the people who genuinely are not, that isn't their kind of thing. Like, a lot of people naturally wouldn't decide, I want to go for a full 3-year course. And especially when a lot of the courses, some people, none of the courses are for them, but maybe they want to be an interior designer. So there's a 1 or 2 year specific course for interior design. It's not university that won't give you this giant debt on you, and you'll leave that course tailored with an education tailored to studying in that industry. And while that person is usually through this culture of you have to go to university, encouraged to go to university, and so then they might choose some other subject that they don't actually want to do. And yeah, this is exactly what we're talking about. So if we reduce that huge demand, then all the tuition fees will start to go down anyway.
Okay, thanks. Folks, we got, okay, Bradley, second in the classes, yeah.
Oh, it's on. Right, my question's for Labour. So, if you said you're going to reduce them to £6,000, when will this change come into place? And also, come on, LibDems can't say much about tuition fees. The one who said they weren't going to raise them to £9,000.
Appreciate the answer, Bradley. I'd just like to, we are going to want to keep this on what's going to happen next, so I appreciate the answers there, but just on, so the questions to Chi.
So the reduction would come into place in the years 2016-2017. So not this term, we can't do things this class, not this year, but next year, and it would apply to all students.
Okay.
Can I speak on apprentices as well?
Nick, do you want to just come in first? And then, is it about policies or is it about PAS? Just.
Oh well, yes. Well, it's just to respond to.
Yeah, that's it. Okay.
Yes. Yes. Obviously, the point's been raised about tuition fees, but this system is much fairer. The issue about reducing the fees is here. It's just not significant.
Okay, keep it to your own party, please.
Okay. It's part of the point, because it isn't actually going to impact that much, because you don't actually have to pay any fees up front. You only pay when you earn over £21,000 a year. And some people will earn a considerable amount of money when they are employed. Not everyone, but some people will. Okay. So that's really important. I think you ought to bear that in mind. And the issue is, are we getting more disadvantaged people? Are we widening access to higher education? And those are the things that are happening. The Liberal Democrats also have plans to link apprenticeships with more and the new degree courses to widen the opportunities for studying a whole range of curriculum at university.
Chi, do you want to say a few more what they would do about apprenticeships?
I want to say that we believe that apprenticeships should be of equal value as university, and that you should be able to make this choice about whether you go to university or take an apprenticeship based on your interests, your ambitions, your career goals. Not because university is seen as some sort of elite model, but also not because it's going to be so expensive and saddle you with lots of debt. It should be your choice based on your priorities. And also, I want to make it clear that the way we're paying for reducing the fees which is not going to add anything to the national debt. We're paying for it in part by increasing the interest rate that those who earn more pay. So it actually is a progressive way of reducing the tax.
Okay. I think we're going to start last word, Simon. Then
Just to say, university's great, it's a rite of passage, it's not just about getting a job, it's about making you a better, well-rounded individual. But apprenticeship's going to do that as well, and that's why we're promising 3 million more apprenticeships over the next Parliament if we get them. So you've got a win-win there, depending on whatever you want to do with your lives.
Oh, thank you. Great. So, that's tuition fees over. We're going to move on to the next question. Very different question. Michael, please may you stick with your hand. Correct stuff. We get a microphone to Michael. Can you ask your next question, please?
What are your policies on the defence budget? How will these policies be beneficial?
Okay, so the questions are behind, and we are back to Shawkat. You're going to start this one. 30 seconds. Defence budget.
Thanks for the question. Basically, UKIP wants to increase the UK's defence because there's few things I hate more than warmongering. But at the same time, it is only responsible that we have a ready, able, and prepared defence, and instead of relying on private war companies, basically. So we would increase a defence budget. We'd increase it to 2% that NATO demands, and then a further 4 billion on top of that by 2020. But at the same time, I do want to stress that UKIP is against endless intervention.
Nick, defence budget, 30 seconds.
Okay, there is in the next Parliament to be a defence review strategy. We will participate in that, and that will look at a range of things from peacekeeping to dangers in the world, a whole range of things, and how we need to deploy our troops. We need to think about that. There's the issue about Trident. The Liberal Democrats stopped the Trident replacement in this Parliament. We're looking at a slimmed down version, moving to the next phase, because we do have to save money. We've got to maintain welfare and other spending priorities we have. So we moved down to a part-time deterrent.
Thank you, Nick. Simon.
The defence budget keeps you safe from Putin and terrorists, so it's obviously a big priority for the Conservatives. We're currently spending the NATO target of 2% of GDP, and we will be doing a review in the next Parliament as well to see if we can continue doing that. We're also going to increase spending on military equipment so it goes up by 1% above inflation, so that if there is another conflict, God forbid, we're well prepared for it. We're also the only party that categorically will be renewing Trident. We can make that guarantee, so we're the only party for a majority government that will make that happen.
Thank you. And finally, Chi, 30 seconds.
The defence budget at 2% is one of our international obligations with NATO, and we remain committed to meeting all our international obligations and supporting a strong Britain. How will those policies benefit us? It gives us a strong voice and a confident voice engaged in the global stage. And it will also ensure that some of the defence budget goes into helping the skills and the manufacturing industries on which the North East economy depends.
Thank you. All right, so a little summary seemed to be likeable last time, so we'll try again. So UKIP are going to increase the defence budget above that 2%. Nick, Liberal Democrats, you're going to review the defence budget, but keep the 2% and slim down Trident. Simon, Conservatives, keep the 2%, also having a review, but fully endorse Trident. It's going to stay the same. And Chi and Labour are going to stay at 2%, as we are. Okay. Do we want to come back on that? I imagine that the question was maybe asked in terms of jobs and recruitment to the army and the navy and those sorts of services. Yes,
since I understand that the armed forces has been reduced now to 88,000 active servicemen and women, in reserves have been bumped up to 30,000. I was wondering, would your party, perchance, enhance the amount of active servicemen and women, or will they just leave it as it is now?
Okay, so should we talk about the figures of active and reserve? So we go in the same order, so active and reserve, members of the army, we're going to stay the same?
That would certainly increase under our spending plans.
Okay, thank you. Nick?
With no plans to increase, what we're looking at through the Strategic Defence Review is how we actually can deploy our armed forces in the best possible way. And we have to listen to defence chiefs who are saying there are strains in particular areas and whether we can actually maintain all of those things. Okay. So the Strategic Defence Review will actually bring some of that to the fore, and then we need to review then on how we move forward.
Okay, review. Right, come on, Simon?
Yeah, it's a really tough one. I mean, the reason why we've retired...
Up and down. The army reserves.
we're going to keep it the same. We're going to continue to reform so we've got more reserves. But that's because it takes longer to commission equipment. It's quicker to train up personnel to be able to fight wars. But also we should be relying on a lot more local partners as well. That's why we've been supporting the Kurds in Iraq against the fight in ISIS, and that's a really important thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be our boots on the ground so it can make a difference.
Okay, and Chief Finance.
We're also going to have a strategic defence review to look at what the real threats are for Britain going forward in the future. But the point about the active army versus the reserves, I mean, we've been, and I'm not criticising the problems, but it's very difficult to have a strong reserve army for a lot of forces, for lots of different reasons, which you may understand better than I, but it's very difficult to have a flexible and effective strong reserve army and armed forces, and that is something that we're going to be looking at, how that needs to impact numbers.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to our final question today. Now, if this question doesn't get you speaking, I really don't know what will. Okay, so we've heard from them already. Bradley, pardon? It'll be LibDem answering first. Okay, so Bradley, take it away, please.
Hi. So obviously this is the minimum wage at the minute. Which of the parties will be raising the minimum wage? So that doesn't just include obviously over 21, so like also our age as well, because obviously, you know, there's less and less support at the education level, so financially. So what is it going to be increased, or, and if it does increase, where's the money coming from to pay for this increase?
All right. So we'll start with LibDem and Simon, Chi, and Shawkat. Okay. So Nick, you've got 30 seconds.
Okay.
Martin, do you have minimum wage?
Briefly, we would be looking at potentially raising the minimum wage. We would ask the Low Pay Commission to come up with some proposals which we would then look to adopt. But we're also looking at a higher level through something called a living wage, which you might know about, which is basically related to the cost of living and what you need to live a decent lifestyle. And we'll be looking at that, and we'll look to implement that in public services, and then look at how we can then roll that out to the private sector by 2016 in public services.
Thank you. Okay. And Simon.
Thanks, Bradley. Hard-working students are one of the backbones of our society, and that's why we believe passionately in increasing the minimum wage. So in October, under the Conservatives, the minimum wage will increase by 3%. That'll take it up to £6.70. I don't know what it is for younger people, but you're in a great school, so I'm sure you can work out the maths. If we continue on that over the next 5 years, it will go up to over £8 an hour, to be £8.14, which is fantastic. But also, we're taking people on minimum wage out of tax, so people have more money to take home.
Thank you. Chi?
It says that we'll increase the minimum wage to £8 in the next government. It's not something that government pays for directly, it is something that businesses pay for, but we believe that businesses do better when they treat their workforce right, and they do better when they get the best out of their workforce by paying them right. And that's the reason why we're also going to incentivise businesses to pay the living wage. So we will give businesses tax breaks for paying the living wage to their employers, because employees are the people who make for the economic success.
Thank you. Okay. Bradley, have you got anything to come back on that with?
Oh yeah. Very nice Conservative up in the minimum wage there, but thank you very much for your 0 hours contracts, because I'm on one of them, and let me tell you that they're dismal, because I can go into work half an hour. Sorry mate, you're going to get sent home. That's no living wage for me. When I leave school, I'll need to leave that job because I need to pay a board to the house. They're no good.
We're going to go across the line with 4 candidates. So mention about 0 hours contract. Can you just, very briefly, before we come back to anything else? I'm so sorry.
No worries.
I knew we shouldn't have put this last question in. I was going to go somewhere. I'm so sorry. Yeah, please take about 30 seconds. Sorry.
So there's 2 ways to improve the situation. You can artificially increase the minimum wage, which for the economists, they'll obviously know that could cost, well, almost certainly will cost jobs if it's done too high. But at the same time, there is another solution, which is to take everyone on minimum wage out of taxation, which will really improve the situation. We're the first people to start talking about this. And at the same time, the supply, the money, where that's going to come from is we're the only people who have a fully costed manifesto, and we're the only people who have an independent think tank saying that our manifesto is approved.
Alright, so back to what Bradley said. We just go across in this order from me to Chi. Can you say what you do about 0 hours contracts? Just quick, like 5-10 seconds. 0 hours contract, yes, no, maybe.
Some people want them, so we wouldn't get rid of them entirely, but you could no longer have them exclusive.
Okay, thank you.
Riley, mate, I was on a 0 hour contract when I was in your age. They're a great way of getting experience, getting your foot in the door. What we've done is we've banned the exclusivity of it, so you can then find other work elsewhere. The only guarantee for security of employment in Newcastle is having a vibrant labour market, so you have a choice of choosing between having a permanent contract or having a flexible hours contract.
Okay.
You can't magic it away.
So the same. Nick?
Yes, 0 hours contracts, in certain cases they are contracts that people want, but in a lot of cases there has been exploitation in relation to these. So the Liberal Democrats will look to crack down on these things, working with the Low Pay Commission, as I was explaining before. It's really important that we do remove abuses from the employment regime, and I hope that would help to ensure a more stable and prosperous society.
Some people are happy to be on 0 hours contracts, but in the vast majority of cases they cause stress, insecurity, low pay, you can't plan for your families, you can't plan for your own home. And as we saw in the Sports Direct documentary, if you saw that, a lot of people are suffering. 1.8 million are on 0 hours contracts now. So we would ban their exploitative use of 0 hours contracts. Pure and simple, employees should deserve a proper contract if they've worked for 12 weeks and they're getting the hours that are needed.
Alright, thank you very much. So we're running a little bit short of time, so thank you to those of you who made some questions to these guys. So, in a moment, each of the candidates are going to make a 30-second closing statement, okay, about really why they think that you should vote for them. Obviously, you'll all have in your own minds who you've agreed with most over the last 40 minutes. After they've made their closing statements, we will put some codes on the board and you get the chance to vote again. They're not the same codes, so don't try and get ahead of the game. So really please try and think about who you're going to be voting for and which one you agree with the most. Okay? So, 30 seconds, I think we're on to start. We should start with you first. Is that right?
Yeah, sure.
So, Shawkat, 30 seconds, close the segment.
Sure. So I want to leave you with one last thought, which is, how many of you actually know the EU Commission President's name? How many of you know the others' names? When was the last time they were on BBC or other media being scrutinised and grilled on TV, just like the Prime Minister and other MPs? The answer is, these people do not represent you. They don't even live in the same country. And if you think that it's wrong, that people you never voted for have enormous power over your lives, you need to vote for UKIP. We need to get out of the European Union. Thank you.
Nick, to you.
Okay, go for it. Okay. Yes, Liberal Democrats in power have been able to implement 70% of their manifesto. We managed to implement a number of our key policies, and we managed to be a moderating influence on the Conservatives. If we're in power next time, there isn't going to be a majority government, I don't think. We need to have politicians who are going to be able to make the courageous decisions, both on the economy, to make sure that we're prosperous, but also to make sure we have a fairer society. Liberal Democrats wouldn't cut as much as the Conservatives, but wouldn't spend as much as Labour.
Thank you. Chief, finally, 30 seconds. Oh, sorry, Simon.
Thanks. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for welcoming a hit and manor boy up to Kenton. It's been a real pleasure, even if I am a Conservative, and maybe there's some of you out there as well. Do vote Conservative because you're voting for high-quality education, you're voting for jobs, you're voting for owning your own home, you're voting for paying down the deficit and paying down the debt so you don't have to pay for the mistakes of the current generation. Let's work together in building a city on a hill. Let's create Newcastle awesome. Only voting Conservative can make that happen. Thank you.
Simon. I just hope definitely is finally Chief, 30 seconds.
Well, a lot has changed since I was at Kenton School. But you know what hasn't changed? You know, we still need a government that puts working people first. We still need investment in jobs. We still need investment in skills. And we still need good public services which help you achieve your dreams. Only a Labour Party government can do that, because we believe Britain succeeds when working people succeed.
Okay, so Ms. Smith, we've got the new codes on the back. What I'd like you to do is to the same number that you can see in the top right hand side. So what I'd like you to do is get your phones out. We'll just give you 1 minute, okay, and then they're going to make a little summary of what's happening. So 1 minute. These are the results that you can see from what you just did. Now at the start of today, they looked, okay. So we seem to have had a little bit of a swing from UKIP towards other candidates, but everything else seems a little bit the same, so that's been interesting. Okay. Before we go, you're going to go in about 2 minutes' time. I think what we all need to do is, by way of a massive round of applause, thank our candidates for being just 2 more minutes. So tonight on BBC One Question Time, we're going to have a slightly, but not much more important, slightly more important given these guys. We're going to have Nick Clegg, David Cameron and Ed Miliband, all on Question Time 10:35 BBC One. So if this has sort of whetted your appetite, then please do watch that. Before you go, personally, I'd just like to thank your brilliant sitcom team you have, Mr. Clark, Miss Wilson and Miss Wilson. They've been great in helping this get sorted out. Miss Smith, who's been stood over there, has been absolutely fantastic as well. I hope that plenty of you do vote on them in a week's time. And what we're going to do now is you're all going to leave. You won't just leave by the back doors, please. And Mr. Clark's going to dismiss you one round at a time.
Okay, so everybody from there, can you get out that door, that side? Let's do this.
Those of you who we asked to ask questions, please wait in the room at the back, please.